located in a desolate part of the country where the sun never shines and rain pours ceaselessly, is an abandoned mansion. It has been empty for over 60 years, yet some claim it's haunted. The owner is said to be so secretive that he even concealed his face when selling the home. And now urban explorers who venture inside claim that they can hear disembodied voices whispering their name. So what's going on? The owner had lived there alone for over 40 years before passing away in 2015 at age 94. But it wasn't until 2 years later that the property was sold. The new owner put the house up for sale after only 3 weeks of owning it, and it is believed that he did this because he was having second thoughts about purchasing the estate. Or perhaps he had found out something terrifying about the home after finding these strange symbols carved into the floorboards. It didn't take long for someone to buy the house, but the new owner remained a mystery as he concealed his face with a blue folder. When he went to sign the papers, what could he have been hiding? Some say that he was embarrassed about buying such a rundown property, or maybe he was ashamed for profiting from the previous owner's death. After all, the old man had passed away just 2 years prior, and people thought it was disrespectful to sell the home so soon after his death. But this wasn't the case. There was another reason why the new owner wanted to remain anonymous. His name is John, and he had actually bought the house as a wedding gift for his wife. But once he stepped inside, he realized that it would need extensive renovations to make it habitable again. So he put it back up for sale. But here's where things get interesting. He tried to sell it for $700,000, but no one took the bait. So he lowered the price to $500,000. Still no luck. He reduced the price even further to $350,000, which is still quite a bargain considering that it's a mansion with 7 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. But this time he threw in a bonus feature, a 2-story library with thousands of antique books. Still, no one was willing to live there. Why would a beautiful mansion like this be abandoned? Well, the answer lies within its dark past. Before the current owner purchased the estate, it had been empty for over 60 years. That's because it was built in 1898 and then abandoned in 1957. So what happened? Well, the story goes that the owner at the time invited over some friends for a party. He had hired several servers and entertainers to keep his guests happy, and a chef, who was able to prepare meals for hundreds of people. But unbeknownst to him, one of the entertainers was a hypnotist, and while the owner was on the dance floor with his wife, the hypnotist approached them and cast a spell over the couple. He told them to forget everything they knew and everyone they loved. Then he led them out of the house and never returned. They were never seen again. Some say that the owner's body was discovered in the basement a few days later, but others claim that he was never found at all. If this is true, then it means that the house is cursed. After all, the owner simply vanished without a trace. But there's more. A young girl was also found dead in the house, but she hadn't been murdered. Instead, she had fallen down the stairs after becoming frightened by one of the paintings in the hallway. She must have been terrified, as there was no glass covering the eyes of the figures in the portrait. But this is not the only painting in the house that will haunt your nightmares. There's also a picture of a woman who is said to be the owner's daughter. She had died under mysterious circumstances, but some believe that her father had actually killed her. Why? Because he had locked her in her room every single day. But the key to her bedroom door had gone missing, and no one knew where it was. And that's not all. People who enter the house report hearing strange sounds and footsteps in the attic. Is it possible that the spirits of those who have died in the mansion are haunting it? You decide. But there's more. The presence felt in the mansion is so strong that many visitors have actually seen apparitions moving through the halls. One of the most commonly spotted ghosts is that of a little girl wearing a Victorian nightgown. She's always seen standing in the same spot and staring off into space. Others have also witnessed the ghost of a man walking up the stairs and then disappearing. So why do the spirits remain in the house? Well, it's believed that they died before finding peace. For example, the last owner had passed away in his chair in the living room and never made it to his bed. Others believe that the spirits are tethered to the house because they died violently. This includes the young girl who fell down the stairs, as well as the owner who was hypnotized and vanished without a trace. Some say that the spirits are so angry that they will physically attack those who trespass on their land. After all, it's believed that at least 5 people have died in the mansion, and if you upset the spirits, they may make you pay the ultimate price. In fact, urban explorers who have ventured into the abandoned house claim that they experienced strange phenomena, such as objects moving on their own, doors opening and closing, and disembodied voices whispering their name. One group of explorers decided to spend the night in the mansion, but they quickly regretted their decision. They heard footsteps above them and turned their flashlight in the direction of the sound, but they saw nothing. Then they started hearing chains dragging metal moans. When the explorers ran outside to escape the commotion, they noticed that the front gate had been locked from the outside. As they began to panic, they realized that there was no way out of the property. Suddenly, they heard a blood-curdling scream in the distance. Then the gate swung open, and the explorers ran out of the mansion and never looked back. Some believe that the scream belonged to the little girl who had died in the house, while others think it was the voice of the mad hypnotist who had taken the lives of the previous owners. But there's more. One urban explorer entered the house through an unlocked window and immediately felt a cold breeze on the back of his neck. He continued exploring and eventually came across a secret passageway that led to an underground tunnel. As he descended down into the darkness, he heard the sound of dripping water, and the smell of damp earth filled his nostrils. But the creepiest part was that he could hear disembodied voices whispering in the darkness. When he turned his flashlight in the direction of the sound, he saw the apparition of a woman standing at the end of the tunnel. She was wearing a Victorian nightgown and had a vacant expression on her face. The urban explorer quickly snapped a photo of the ghost and then ran out of the tunnel as fast as he could. But the most compelling evidence of a haunting comes from the photographs taken by paranormal investigators. In one image, they captured the shadow of a little girl standing in front of the fireplace. Another photo shows the full apparition of a man standing in the doorway, and the scariest image of all is the one taken by the urban explorer in the tunnel. It clearly shows the shadow of a woman who looks like she is reaching out to him. But the question remains, is the mansion truly haunted? Well, if you ask the locals, they'll tell you to stay away. That's because they believe that the spirits in the house are angry and will stop at nothing to protect their home. As for the current owner, he's still trying to sell the house, but no one is willing to take the risk. Perhaps one day, it will be demolished, and the spirits can finally move on. Or maybe it will remain abandoned forever. Now watch. Top 10 Most Haunted Places in America. Or check out the real reason why families should not live in abandoned houses. Welcome to the most mysterious house in the world. This is the house where time stopped. Here, years can go by without anyone setting foot inside. For decades, the paint has been peeling off its walls, and weeds have taken over its overgrown garden. But that hasn't always been the case. In fact, this was once a lively and luxurious home where children ran through the halls and parties were held every weekend. So how did it fall into such disrepair? And who actually lives here? Built in 1898, the Grand Victorian Mansion boasted 30 rooms spread out over 3 floors. It had a library with thousands of historical books, a ballroom with hand-painted murals, and secret passageways concealed behind built-in cabinets. The exterior was just as impressive. Wraparound porches extended from almost every room, overlooking immaculately kept gardens and grounds that stretched all the way down to the Long Island Sound. There was also a carriage house, stables for 8 horses, and a 2-story greenhouse made entirely of glass. Overseeing the construction of the estate was wealthy dry goods merchant Charles Achilles. He'd struck it rich selling everyday items like fabric, thread, and yarn, and he planned to live in the home with his wife and their 4 children. But unfortunately, he would never see the finished product. Just a year after construction began, Charles suddenly passed away. His widow, however, was determined to finish the house so that they could at least have somewhere nice to live while planning their next move. And when it was complete, she hosted a party inviting her closest friends and family. They reminisced about Charles and enjoyed the live music, dancing, and food until late into the night. It was then that Mrs. Childs decided this house would be their new forever home. She hired servants and nannies and doted on her children, making sure they had everything they could possibly want. One day, she even surprised them with a pair of Doberman pinschers, which they named Fala and Frida. Over the next few years, they became the family's constant companions. They joined them on trips to the beach, accompanied the children on their walks to school, and greeted everyone who came to visit with enthusiastic tail wags. As the children got older, they, too, fell in love with the house. They explored every nook and cranny and made countless memories within these 4 walls. When they weren't in school, they played in the many rooms of the mansion. They pretended the library was a pirate ship, the ballroom was a royal palace, and the 3rd floor was an enchanted forest. And when their parents weren't busy hosting dinner parties or galas, they joined in on the fun. They taught their children to dance in the ballroom, took them on picnics in the gardens, and introduced them to the joys of boating on their private dock. In fact, it was here that the family was most happy. With their perfect home and devoted servants, nothing could possibly go wrong, or could it? Mrs. Childs' sons were away serving in World War II. When one stormy night the unthinkable happened. A fire broke out in the mansion. engulfing the entire third floor in flames. Frantically, the family tried to put the fire out, but it was no use. Within minutes, the entire house was destroyed. Only the stone walls were left standing. Devastated, the family packed up what few belongings they could salvage and moved away. The house sat abandoned for several decades, until 1973, when it was purchased by Paul M. Madden. Madden was a successful businessman who specialized in buying rundown homes and restoring them to their former glory. However, he had no such plans for this house. Instead, he simply boarded up the windows and left it to sit. Year after year, the house continued to deteriorate. The roof caved in, the chimneys crumbled, and the gardens grew wild. By the time the year 2000 rolled around, the house was a crumbling ruin. Locals began calling it the skeleton house, because all you could see were the bones of the building. Then, in 2001, the town of Hempstead decided they'd had enough. They filed a lawsuit against Madden for failing to maintain the property. They claimed that he'd violated local codes by allowing the vegetation to grow out of control, and the overgrown plants were attracting dangerous animals like snakes and rats. So unless something was done about it, the town council threatened to board up the house and charge him with the cost of doing so. Madden responded by filing his own lawsuit claiming that the council was violating his civil rights because he was getting any younger, and boarding up the house would essentially be condemning him to death, since he wouldn't be able to get out if he needed to. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court where Madden won. However, he still lost because he eventually passed away in 2011 and his estate was forced to sell the house. Today, it remains abandoned, though there have been several attempts to restore the house and turn it into a private museum. Unfortunately, none of those plans ever came to fruition. Perhaps the most famous owner of the house wanted to preserve it for future generations, but without regular maintenance, the house continued to deteriorate, and today, it's barely hanging on. The gardens have completely overgrown and swallowed up the walkways. Ivy grows up the sides of the house and birds nest in the broken window frames. Most of the roof has caved in and the front porch has partially collapsed. Even the chimneys are toppled over. Despite the damage, the house is still imposing and intriguing. People often take trips to the town just to catch a glimpse of it, and photographers love to capture its eerie beauty. However, it's illegal to trespass on the property, so the only way to see it is from the road. Who knows what the future holds for the house? Perhaps one day it'll be restored to its former glory. Or maybe it'll continue to crumble until nothing is left standing. Time, as they say, will tell. Now it's time to make your voice heard. Which room was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. There was a woman sitting by the window. She was dressed in a striking red dress that seemed to glow against the backdrop of the setting sun. The woman's presence was both captivating and intriguing, drawing the attention of everyone around her. Her eyes were fixed on something outside the window, her lips parted slightly, as if in anticipation of something. There was an air of mystery about her, a sense that there was more to her than met the eye. And as the light began to fade, the woman's figure became shrouded in shadow, adding to the enigma that surrounded her. Now, what exactly was she looking at? What thoughts were running through her mind? Why did she choose to sit by the window at this particular time? And why was she dressed in such a vibrant color? All of these questions swirled around those who saw her, each person forming their own theories and speculations. But the woman remained silent, her gaze unwavering, her secrets safe within her. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, the woman in the red dress continued to sit by the window, a silent sentinel watching over the world below. She seemed lost in her own thoughts, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the evening light. What was it that had brought her to this spot? Was it the beauty of the sunset, or was there something more, some deeper meaning behind her choice of location? The onlookers could only wonder. They watched her for a while longer, trying to piece together the puzzle that was her presence. But as darkness fell, they were forced to go about their own business, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the fading light. And so the mystery of the woman in the red dress deepened, becoming a part of the urban fabric, a story whispered in hushed tones, a secret shared only in the quiet moments when the sun sets and the shadows grow long. In the bustling city of Chicago, high above the street, sat a woman by the window. Her name was Olivia, a young professional who worked as an architect. She had been staring out the window for quite a while now, not really seeing the passing cars and people, but lost in thought. She had just come from a meeting that had left her feeling drained and discouraged. Her team's latest project had hit a snag, and she could unshake off the feeling of disappointment that had settled in her chest. The sky outside was a canvas of fiery oranges and deep purples, as the sun prepared to dip below the horizon, but Olivia wasn't admiring the view. Her eyes were searching, looking for something beyond the city's skyline. It was then that she saw him, a man standing across the street, waving at her. His face was partially hidden by the shadows cast by a large oak tree, but his smile was bright and unmistakable. Olivia felt her heart skip a beat. Could it be? Could he really be here? Before she could dwell on the thought any further, he was gone, disappearing into the crowd. But his presence had left an indelible mark on her, a spark of curiosity that refused to be ignored, as if drawn by an invisible force. Olivia found herself getting up from her seat and walking towards the window. She needed to see him again, to confirm her suspicions and maybe, just maybe, to find out if her hopes were not misplaced. Stepping out onto the balcony, Olivia took a deep breath, bracing herself for the cool night air. This was it. She could see everything from here. The city sprawled beneath her like a glittering tapestry. The stars twinkled above, and in the distance, she could hear the faint hum of traffic. Everything seemed to be in place, yet something was missing. Where was he? Had she imagined his presence, or was he truly here? Olivia wasn't sure, but she knew she couldn't stay here. She had to go out and find him. With a mix of apprehension and excitement, she decided to venture down the fire escape. She didn't know where she was going or what she would say when she found him, but she knew she had to try. As she climbed down the ladder, each step taking her closer to the unknown, she couldn't help but feel a sense of adventure. This was a side of her that she rarely let herself explore, the part that yearned for spontaneity and excitement. The city welcomed her with open arms, enveloping her in its vibrant embrace. The streets were alive with music and laughter, the air thick with the scent of food from nearby restaurants. People strolled past, their faces aglow with the warm lights from the shops. Olivia took it all in, letting the energy of the city wash over her, invigorating her and reminding her of the boundless possibilities that lay ahead. She walked for a while, enjoying the freedom that came with exploring the city on foot, without any particular destination in mind. Suddenly, she remembered the cozy Italian restaurant she and David had talked about visiting. Could he be there? Hope surged through her. With renewed determination, she quickened her pace, eager to see if her hunch was correct. When Olivia arrived at the restaurant, her heart was pounding. She stood at the entrance, taking in the sight before her. Warm light spilled out from within, inviting her to step inside. The aroma of garlic and basil wafted through the air, tantalizing her senses. As she opened the door, the sound of lively conversation and clinking glasses filled her ears. She could see David sitting at a table by the window. He was deep in conversation, his eyes sparkling with amusement. When he noticed Olivia standing at the entrance, a wide smile spread across his face. He got up from his seat and walked towards her. "Olivia," he said, his voice filled with surprise and delight. "What are you doing here?" Before she could reply, he had taken her hand and led her inside. As they walked in, all eyes turned towards them. Olivia felt a blush creep up her neck. She hadn't realized how many people were watching her, waiting for her to make her move. The moment stretched on, every second filled with anticipation. Finally, David broke the silence. "Are you going to join me for dinner?" he asked. His eyes held hers, conveying a depth of emotion that made her knees weak. Without hesitation, Olivia nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it, the opportunity she had been waiting for. As they sat down at the table, Olivia couldn't help but steal glances at David. He looked different up close, more handsome than she had imagined. His features were sharp and defined, his eyes intense and captivating. A sense of familiarity washed over her, making her feel as though she had known him forever. They talked for hours, catching up on old times and sharing their dreams for the future. David was charming and witty, and Olivia found herself laughing more than she had in a long time. As the night wore on, the restaurant emptied out, leaving them alone in their little bubble of conversation. When it was time to go, David walked Olivia back to her building. They stood at the entrance, reluctant to part ways. "I had a wonderful time tonight," Olivia said, her cheeks flushed with happiness. "Me too," David replied, his gaze unwavering. "I haven't had this much fun in ages." Before they said their goodbyes, David leaned in and brushed his lips against hers. The kiss was soft and tender, yet it sent shivers down Olivia's spine. In that one moment, she knew that this was just the beginning of their story. As Olivia stepped into her apartment, a wave of emotion washed over her. Tonight had been a whirlwind, a complete departure from her usual routine. The thought of David, of the kiss they had shared, brought a smile to her face. She couldn't believe how lucky she was to have him back in her life. Suddenly, she noticed a small box on her table. It was wrapped in beautiful paper and tied with a satin ribbon. Curiosity piqued. She sat down and began to unwrap the gift. Inside, she found a pair of earrings. They were delicate and beautiful, just like the ones she had admired in the shop window earlier that day. A note was tucked beside them, simply saying, "Wear them for me." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. It was from David. The next day, Olivia woke up feeling refreshed and excited. The events of the previous night still felt like a dream, yet the memory of David's kiss lingered on her lips. As she got ready for work, she couldn't help but smile. She decided to wear the earrings he had given her. They were small and elegant, complementing her outfit perfectly. When Olivia arrived at work, her colleagues greeted her with surprised smiles. "Those earrings are stunning," one of them said. "Where did you get them?" Olivia hesitated for a moment, a secret hidden in her eyes. "A friend," she replied mysteriously. As the day went on, Olivia couldn't shake off a sense of anticipation. She kept checking her phone, hoping for a message from David. Suddenly, it vibrated in her hand. Her heart raced as she opened the message. Wearing the earrings, it read. Olivia's cheeks flushed with recognition. David was watching her. She knew it. All of a sudden, a commotion broke out near the window. People were pointing and whispering. Curious, Olivia walked over to see what was going on. Her eyes widened in surprise. There he was, David, standing on the other side of the street, waving at her. A wide smile spread across his face. In that moment, Olivia felt her heart soar. He had found her, their eyes met, and she knew that this was just the beginning of their story.